The house cost half the market price, and that should have been the first warning. Helena said it was luck, a reward for marrying young and still having savings. I let her talk because I wanted to believe it too. We'd saved 3 years' worth of paychecks to put a down payment on anything that was ours, and this thing showed up without warning, without a wait list, without fine print. A simple 2-story row house at the end of a dead-end street. Small backyard, freshly painted walls. A narrow hallway connecting the living room to the back of the house, long enough that the kitchen light couldn't reach the front door. Mrs. Aurora was the one who helped us at the real estate office. Early 60s, a dress washed so many times the pattern had given up on itself. Firm hands that had never asked for help opening a jar. She said she'd known the house for 30 years, that she'd lived there for a while, that she'd bought it from the previous owners and was now passing it on because, her words, the time had come. She didn't explain the time for what. I didn't ask. The deed was signed at a small neighborhood notary office with a ceiling fan and the smell of old paper. When we stepped outside, Mrs. Aurora pulled me aside. Helena had gone to get the car, and I stood on the sidewalk while the old woman held out a yellowed envelope in my direction. The paper had the color of something kept in a drawer for too long. The edges were soft, worn by the handling of hands that came before hers.
This came with the house. The previous owners gave it to me when I bought it. They got it from someone else. Nobody knows who wrote it first. But I've been following what's written in there for 30 years, and I'm alive and my husband is too, so...
She stopped. She adjusted the envelope in my hand with both her hands over mine, like someone handing over a newborn.
You don't have to, but I did. And whoever came before me did too. Those who follow the rules stay.
I waited for the rest of the sentence. And those who don't. She looked at me a little longer than she needed to. Didn't answer. Got into her rideshare, closed the door without looking back, and left. Helena came back asking what that was about. I showed her. She read it while I drove, the paper open on her lap, the seatbelt pressing it against her stomach. She read it and laughed. Then she read it again, slower, and laughed less.
It's nothing. Superstitious old lady. We'll respect it out of politeness, but it's not going to run our lives.
I agreed right away, but I put the paper in the first drawer of our dresser, the one that creaks, and I kept thinking about it for the rest of the day. The first night in the new house was strange the way every first night in a new house is. Furniture in the wrong places, the smell of fresh paint on the walls, sounds that didn't have names yet. The way the streetlight came through a different gap than I was used to, drawing a shadow on the ceiling that looked like an open hand. Helena fell asleep fast, turned to her side, hair spread across the pillow like always. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. Beams creaking, pipes breathing, the refrigerator downstairs humming in a rhythm I hadn't memorized yet. Around 2 a.m, I gave up on sleep. I got up slowly so I wouldn't wake Helena, opened the first drawer of the dresser. It creaked, like always, and took out the envelope. I sat on the edge of the bed, with the bedside lamp on its lowest setting, that sickly yellow that barely lights up your own hands, and pulled the paper out carefully, as if the page might tear along the folds. It was handwritten in old script, crooked but firm strokes, from someone who wrote with conviction. Faded black ink. Below each rule there was a phrase in smaller handwriting, separated by a thin line, as if it were a note from someone who'd learned the rule the hard way. I read in a low voice, to myself, moving my lips without barely making a sound. Rule number 1. If someone calls your name from the hallway after midnight, don't answer. Don't open your eyes. Keep breathing like you're asleep. And below, in smaller writing, whoever answers is heard. I thought it was strange. I thought, who would call my name from the hallway? The house was ours. There was no one else there. Rule number 2. At night, the bedroom door must be fully open or fully closed. Never ajar. And below, the gap is where they watch. I looked at our bedroom door. It was ajar, a hand's width of darkness between the wood and the frame, a vertical rectangle of unlit hallway. I got up and closed it until the latch clicked. The sound seemed too loud in the silence of the house. Rule number 3. Do not take photographs inside the house between midnight and 4 a.m. And below, some things only show up in the flash. Helena sometimes took photos of the cat with flash at night, when Bituka struck a funny pose on the rug. I thought about telling her in the morning. I decided I'd bring it up calmly, without scaring her, mixing it into breakfast conversation. Rule number 4. On nights of heavy rain, don't stare at the reflection in the bedroom windows. And below, what's on the other side learns your face. The bedroom had 2 large windows facing the street. I remembered both of them. The rain hadn't come yet, but March was approaching and the storms would come with it. Rule number 5. Do not say your spouse's name 3 times in a row inside the house. And below, the house listens and answers in their place. I said her name once, in a voice so low it barely came out. Helena. The house didn't answer. Helena was sleeping. I froze on the second syllable of the second time. I didn't test the third. Rule number 6. This last one bothered me more than the others. More than all of them combined. Maybe because it wasn't about the house, it was about people. If when you wake up the other person seems different, slower, with a delayed smile, with a voice slightly off, don't comment. Don't ask. Don't confront. Act as if everything is normal and leave the house before dark. And below, in handwriting that seemed to have been written with more pressure on the pen, nearly tearing the paper, if you notice, she notices that you noticed. I looked at Helena sleeping, calm breathing, hair across her face, one hand under the pillow, the way she always slept. I thought this rule looked like something from a movie. I thought Mrs. Aurora was just an eccentric old woman afraid of growing old alone in a house too big for her. I thought every new house is strange in the first few days and that my mind was just looking for things where there were none. I put the paper back in the drawer. The drawer creaked. I turned off the lamp. I tried to sleep. I had no idea. The first week was calm. I unpacked boxes from on top of furniture, put up a shelf in the living room. Helena painted the spare room light blue because she thought it would bring peace. I followed the rules without thinking much, like someone who wears a seatbelt on an empty road. You probably don't need it, but why risk it? I closed the bedroom door before sleeping. I didn't take photos at night. I didn't say her name 3 times in a row. Helena laughed when she saw me making those small, silent corrections and said I was cute, that she'd married an old-fashioned man. I let her laugh. It was good to hear her laughter echo through the house. On the Friday of the first week, I went downstairs for water around 12:30. When I came back, I forgot to close the bedroom door properly. It stayed ajar. I saw the gap, thought about getting up, let it go. Helena was already asleep. I put my arm over her, closed my eyes. She was the one who heard it first. The voice came from the hallway. Low, muffled, but clear enough to have a name and a face. Helena, Helena, come here. It was my voice. I know it was my voice because Helena shifted in bed, drowsy, and mumbled what? The way she always mumbled when I called her at night. And the voice said again, Helena, come here, and she answered, louder this time. I'm coming, wait. I froze. I hadn't opened my mouth. I was lying next to her, eyes closed, body cold, and that voice had come from the dark hallway, and it had my tone, my way of calling Helena softly when she was on the couch and I wanted her attention. Helena got out of bed and walked to the door before I could form a single word, and I, with my throat closed as if someone had squeezed it shut, could only whisper, stay here. She stopped in the doorway, looked back, smiled. That way Helena always smiled when she thought I was being paranoid, head slightly tilted, eyes half closed, one corner of her mouth higher than the other.
You called me.
No, I didn't. She stood there a second longer than she needed to. The hallway behind her was nothing but darkness. Then she went back to bed, said must have been a dream, and fell asleep. I stayed awake until the sun came through the curtain. No more sounds came from the hallway, but I heard, very faintly, almost at the edge of what human hearing can reach, something laugh. It wasn't a human laugh. It was the sound of something that had just learned how laughter works. The next morning, Helena took a little too long to answer my good morning. Not by much, a fraction of a second longer than she usually took. But I noticed because now I noticed everything. The way she held her mug, how fast she blinked, the distance she kept from me in the kitchen. She was sitting on the stool, scrolling her phone, and when I walked in, she looked up, and for an instant her face went completely still, like someone who needs to remember who the person in front of them is. Then came the smile.
Good morning. Sleep well?
I remembered Rule 6 immediately. Remembered the exact words. Slower. Delayed smile. Remembered the part about leaving the house before dark. But what was that really? A fraction of a second. A smile that took one extra heartbeat. Could be tiredness. Could be the aftershock of the voice in the hallway. She'd gotten up in the middle of the night. taken a while to fall back asleep. Could be anything. Was I going to leave my wife, walk out the front door, and hide at my mother's house because of a fraction of a second? That was overreacting. That was paranoia. That was exactly what she'd been saying about me all week. Old-fashioned, superstitious, seeing things where there's nothing. I stayed. Had coffee with her. Didn't mention the voice in the hallway. She didn't either. That night, I checked the bedroom door twice before bed. It was fully closed, latch clicked. Helena had brushed her teeth, picked up the book from the nightstand, laid down on her side, turned off the light. And when I woke up to use the bathroom around 3 in the morning, the door was ajar, open a hand's width. A dark, vertical, narrow gap, exactly the size a face would fit. I closed it without making a sound. Went back to bed. Couldn't sleep. In the morning, I asked if she'd gotten up during the night. She said no. Said she slept like a rock. And smiled, but the smile arrived a beat after her eyes, like a subtitle out of sync. On the 4th night, she took a photo of the cat. We'd gotten Batuka from a shelter 2 months before the wedding, and he was still getting used to the new house. Helena loved watching him curl around her legs at night, and she'd sometimes take photos, no flash, with that app that makes pictures grainy and vintage. She thought it looked nice. I was already in the bedroom when I heard the click. I went out to the hallway. She was crouching in the living room. Phone pointed at Batuka, who was lying on the rug staring at nothing with that attention only cats have, pupils dilated, ears rotating. It was 12:17. Helena, I said, Rule 3. She took a moment to look at me. When she did, her smile was ready before the rest of her face caught up, as if the smile had been preloaded, waiting to be triggered.
It's just a photo. It's fine.
She showed me the screen. Batuka was there, eyes closed, sleeping. Behind him, the wall. And on the wall, what looked like a shadow a little too long, roughly shaped like someone standing. But it could just be the curtain from the other room, she said. Could be anything. She deleted the photo in front of me, smiled again, that new smile, preloaded, arriving before its time. Went to bed. I didn't sleep. It rained hard the following Friday. One of those March storms that seemed to want to tear the roof apart from the inside. Wind hitting sideways, glass rattling in the frames. Helena liked rain. She always had. Ever since we started dating, she'd drag me to the porch when it started pouring, and we'd stand there holding each other watching the wall of water pass, feeling the drops the wind threw at our faces. That night, she stayed at the bedroom window alone. I'd gone to take a shower. When I came back, she was standing there, leaning against the glass, looking out, or looking at herself. The bedroom lights on, total darkness outside, and the glass working as a perfect mirror, sending her face back with a clarity that felt deliberate. Helena, I said, don't look there. She didn't answer. I repeated. She turned her head in slow motion, like someone submerged in water, and smiled. Said,
I'm just watching the rain.
But you were looking at the reflection.
So what?
So there's a rule. She laughed. It was the first laugh I'd heard from her in 3 days, and it was a laugh I didn't recognize. Short, low, with no joy in it. Like someone who'd learned to laugh by copying other people, the right mechanics, the right pitch, but nothing inside. I turned off the bedroom light immediately. The reflection vanished. She stayed there standing in the dark, facing the window, a few seconds longer than she needed to. The rain hit the glass. A bolt of lightning lit the room for an instant, and in the flash I saw her face in the reflection, but the reflection wasn't smiling, and she was. Then she lay down, said goodnight with her own voice. That part was still hers. That night I fell asleep faster than I should have. Accumulated exhaustion from a whole week without sleeping properly, without truly resting, without closing my eyes, without fearing what I'd find when I opened them. I was out before I realized it, and I woke up in a way I'd never woken up before. It wasn't noise. It wasn't light. It was instinct. The animal inside us, the one that existed before language, before thought, before everything, warning that something is wrong with the layout of the room, something out of its usual place, something that changed while I slept. I didn't open my eyes right away. Somehow I knew it in my gut, knew it in my bones, that if I opened my eyes too quickly I'd find something looking back. I opened them slowly, fraction by fraction. First just a sliver, seeing the bedroom sealing through the veil of my lashes. Then a bit more, seeing the corner of the wardrobe. Then I tilted my head toward her side, and she was there. propped up on her elbow, on her side of the bed, turned toward me, eyes open in the dark, the smile already in place, waiting for me to wake up. I don't know how long she'd been like that. Don't know if she was already there when I turned off the light hours earlier, patiently waiting, not blinking, not moving, the smile held on her face like a wax mask. When she saw my eyes opening, she spoke, slowly, with a softness that didn't seem to come from her throat.
Hi, babe. I thought you looked so beautiful sleeping. I was just watching.
I couldn't answer. I said, with a dry voice, that I was thirsty. I got up. She didn't move, didn't turn her head to follow me, stayed in the same position, propped on her elbow, eyes open, facing the empty side where my body had been, as if I were still there. I drank water in the kitchen, took as long as I could, filled the glass 3 times, washed the glass, dried the glass, put the glass away, took the glass out again. When I came back, she was still in the same position, exactly the same, propped on her elbow, eyes open, smile waiting. I spent the rest of the night with my back to her. I didn't sleep. On Saturday morning, Helena went out for a run early. It was her Saturday ritual, sneakers, earbuds, half an hour around the block, and I was glad to hear the front door close, because it meant she was leaving on her own, with her legs, with her body, doing what she always did. Maybe she was still her. Maybe I was losing my mind. I went to the kitchen to make coffee. Bituka came and rubbed against my legs, purring, and for a second the world felt normal. I called him out loud, "Bituka, come here," and while filling his bowl, I remembered I needed to text Helena to pick up bread at the bakery. I grabbed my phone, started typing, and realized my mouth was open, saying her name while I typed. Helena, Helena, Hele. I froze on the 3rd syllable. The house went silent. But it wasn't a normal silence. It was the silence that happens when a refrigerator stops humming. I hadn't even noticed the refrigerator was humming until it stopped, as if someone had pulled the plug, as if the entire house had held its breath. Bituka stopped eating, his ears up, rigid, turned behind me, toward the hallway, and I heard, coming from the empty bedroom upstairs, her voice.
Hi.
I didn't turn around. I didn't turn around because I knew she had left, because I'd heard the front door, because her sneakers were no longer on the mat by the entrance, because I'd seen through the kitchen window her turning the corner running. I didn't turn around, and I stood there holding my phone with a dry mouth and my heart beating in my neck. The voice said again, closer, as if it had come down the stairs without making a sound.
Come here.
I grabbed the car keys, went to the front door, opened it, and walked out. No jacket, no wallet. Without closing the door, I walked to the gate, closed the gate, and stood there on the sidewalk, barefoot on the cold concrete, waiting for Helena to come back from her run. She came back 20 minutes later, sweaty, cheerful, bread tucked under her arm, kissed me on the cheek. Found it strange that I was standing at the gate in my pajamas.
Did something happen?
I was waiting for you, I said. She laughed. Her way, the old way, head thrown back, eyes squeezed shut, the sound coming from her belly. Said I was silly. We went inside holding hands. The house was silent. Bituka was sleeping on the rug. There was no one else. But I knew there had been. It was that Saturday night that she started watching me from the corners. The first time, I was reading in the living room, and I looked up by chance. The way you look up when you feel you're being watched, that itch on the back of your neck that isn't an itch, it's a warning. The hallway came off the living room at a right angle, and at the corner of the hallway, I saw a piece of her, not her whole body, half her face, one eye, part of her cheek, a bit of hair. She was standing there, pressed against the wall on the other side, peeking into the living room like someone looking through a keyhole. "Hi," I said, trying to sound natural. "Everything okay?" She didn't respond right away. The eye didn't blink. Then the piece vanished, sliding behind the wall like a shadow being reeled in. I heard her bare feet on the cold floor, walking toward the kitchen. She appeared seconds later with a glass of water, smiling.
I was thirsty.
But the kitchen wasn't on the side of the hallway she'd come from. It happened again early Sunday morning. I'd gotten up to use the bathroom, and when I came back to the bedroom, I stopped at the door. The door was fully open, the way the rule said. The bed was on the other side of the room. Helena wasn't in it. I turned my head toward the hallway. She was at the corner of the bathroom door, pressed against the wall, watching the bedroom. Half her face, the same brown eye, not moving, not blinking. as if she'd been there for hours, as if that was her natural position now, the place where she belonged, in the corners, in the gaps, in the cracks. "Helena," I said. She tilted her head slightly to the side, like someone who heard but is processing, like someone who needs to translate their own name before recognizing it. Then she stepped out from the corner, walked to the bed, lay down, pulled the sheet up to her chin, said,
"Come to bed, babe. I just went to the bathroom too."
But the bathroom light hadn't been turned on. I lay down. I stayed wide awake until the sun came in. Sunday morning, I woke up alone in bed. It was 8 o'clock, and Helena usually woke up before me on Sundays, but she'd normally stay in bed scrolling her phone or go downstairs to make pancakes. I could smell it rising through the staircase, butter melting on the griddle, and it was my favorite alarm clock. That Sunday, I didn't smell pancakes, didn't smell anything, didn't hear anything. I got up slowly. I found her in the living room, standing, staring at the staircase wall. Not at a painting, not at a window, at the wall, arms hanging at her sides, her back too straight, her hair loose and still as if even the air didn't dare touch it. I said, "Hey, babe." She took a moment before turning, and when she turned, it was her. The same brown eyes, the same nose she hated and I loved, the same mouth. But the smile came a quarter of a second after the turn of the neck, as if it had been triggered by a mechanical switch. And the smile was wider than she normally smiled, too wide, showing teeth I didn't remember seeing before. And the eyes took a bit longer to catch up, as if they were operated by a separate system, a slightly slower one, still calibrating.
"Good morning. Sleep well?"
And right then I understood. It wasn't a fraction of a second. It wasn't tiredness. It wasn't my mind seeing things where there were none. It was Rule 6. It was exactly what was written on the paper: slower, delayed smile, voice slightly off. And I, the idiot, had rationalized a whole week of small warnings, had swept Rule 6 under the rug, had told myself it was paranoia, overthinking, the new house messing with my head. And now I was standing in the kitchen looking at a woman who was no longer my wife. And she was looking back with a smile too wide and eyes that took too long to follow. I didn't comment. I didn't ask. I smiled back, the hardest smile I've ever given. Said I was going to have coffee. Went to the kitchen. My hands were shaking. Put water on the stove, grabbed the mug, grabbed the coffee jar. Did everything on autopilot. Every movement rehearsed 1,000 times by years of routine. And I was grateful for that, because my head wasn't there. My head was calculating the distance to the door, the weight of the keys in my pocket, the time to the car. From the corner of my eye, I saw her still standing in the same spot, turned toward me now, smile intact. The rule said, leave the house before dark. I looked at the clock on the stove. 8:17 in the morning. I had all day. My plan was simple. Have coffee. Say I was going out to buy bread. Leave. And not come back. Get the car, drive to my mother's house. Call Mrs. Aurora. Ask for an explanation. Figure out what to do next. Simple. Clear. I drank the coffee. Talked about the weather. Said I was going to buy bread. Helena said,
"I'll go with you."
I said it would be quick, that I'd be right back. She said,
"That's fine. I'll get my sneakers."
and stood there waiting, without moving to get any sneakers. Just waiting, with the smile intact and her eyes fixed on me, as if she knew I wasn't going anywhere. I went to get my wallet from the bedroom. When I passed through the hallway, I glanced without meaning to at the bathroom mirror. The bathroom door was open, and the mirror caught the angle of the living room. Her reflection was there, in the living room, still standing, still waiting. But the smile had dropped. Her eyes in the reflection were different, darker, deeper, and they were staring straight at me, through the hallway, through the wall, meeting mine in the mirror. I froze in the hallway, and I heard, from the living room, her voice. Calm, low, no smile in it.
You noticed.
I didn't think. I ran, dropped the wallet on the floor, took off down the hallway toward the back of the house, knocked over a chair on the way. The crash echoed through the whole house, ignored everything. Behind me, I heard her bare feet touch the floor with that new lightness that wasn't Helena's, that belonged to something that had learned to walk by imitating people. And I heard her start to come, not running, walking, but coming, each step in perfect rhythm, calm, patient, like someone who knows they don't need to run because the house is theirs now. The study was the farthest room, solid wood door, Old but working lock. I reached the door with her still at the end of the hallway. Went in, turned the key from inside with my hand shaking so badly I missed twice. The key slipping, fingers sweating, metal grinding. And on the third try the key turned. I pressed my body against the wood, held my breath. The footsteps stopped on the other side. I pushed the old bookshelf until it blocked the door. Books fell, shelves scraped against the floor. I didn't care. I sat in the computer chair. My hands were shaking so badly I got the password wrong twice. Her footsteps were still in the hallway. Slow, calm. They weren't Helena's footsteps. Helena walked firmly, heel first, with the urgency of someone who always has somewhere to be. These steps were light, barefoot, like someone who'd learned to walk by imitating. They stopped at the door. The handle didn't move.
Babe, why did you lock the door?
The voice was hers, 100% hers. Every vowel, every breath between words, the way she let the sentence fall at the end without a question mark. But the intonation was new, as if the sentence had been read before it was spoken, as if she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror until she got it right. I didn't answer.
Open up. I'm not mad.
I opened the browser. I don't know why I opened the browser. Maybe because if I died there, someone had to know. Maybe because I needed to write to believe it was happening. Maybe because the only thing I had left was to put words on a screen and hope someone would read them before it was too late. I opened a forum, started typing. The house cost half the market price. Helena said it was a sign. The footsteps left the door. I heard her go downstairs. Heard the fridge door open and close. Heard her come back, climbing the stairs, one step at a time. No rush. We bought it from a woman named Mrs. Aurora. She gave me 6 rules written on a yellowed envelope. The footsteps stopped at the door again. This time she didn't say anything. I heard something that wasn't a footstep. It was a low dragging sound, on the floor, near the gap under the door, as if she'd sat down on the hallway floor and pressed her face against the gap between the door and the floor. I looked at the gap under the door. The gap is where they watch. There was an eye in the gap. It was brown. It was her eye. It was watching me without blinking. Helena broke rule 1 in the first week, then 2, then 3, then 4. I think I broke 5 without realizing. Rule 6 said to pretend until I could leave the house before dark. I couldn't. I looked. She saw that I looked. There's something scraping the door now. It's not the eye anymore. It's scraping from the floor upward. Slowly, steady rhythm, as if measuring the entire door, bottom to top, on my side. As if learning the size of the last barrier between us. It's too late now. That thing is going to get in here. If you